After transferring to Colorado State last year and having a breakout season that likely would have got him drafted, Nique Clifford returned for his 5th year of eligibility and improved across the board in a significant way, earning first team Mountain West honors and getting them to the tournament for a 2nd straight year. He's a 6'6" wing who is one of the more well-rounded players in college basketball. He plays with a lot of energy, is terrific on the glass, and offers complementary skills as a defender and secondary playmaker. And most importantly, he's turned himself into a respectable shooter, which has done a lot for his NBA projection. Now, he'll be 24 as a rookie. He's still been fairly streaky as a shooter and wasn't much of a prospect before he went to Colorado State, but he's put himself well into the first round mix and should have plenty of suitors for those looking for a contributor. Now, Nique has a lot to his game, but we'll start on the defensive end because I think that's where he probably makes his most significant impact. He took a slight step back there given the responsibility he had offensively, but he still projects favorably. He's not the most physically imposing, but he's competitive. He's a solid lateral mover who does a good job of keeping things in front and absorbing contact. And though he's more similar in size to guys like KCP and Ben Shepherd, he'll likely match up on 2s and some 3s and probably switch fine onto a lot of 1s. He can still clean up some of the screen navigation, but the effort was mostly there and he projects favorably on the perimeter overall. And then in help, he's been active and knowledgeable in a lot of ways. He's got good instincts, he's been in the right spots, he'll make a play with a help side block and plays well in passing lanes to come up with steals and deflections. And over the last couple years, he seemed to frequently make timely plays even if the stats aren't the loudest. Now, something that does immediately jump out at you is his rebounding. He averaged nearly 10 a game this year and was at 8 last year. And his ability to both mix it up in traffic and track down long rebounds is a huge asset, especially with how cross-matched and spaced out the league is today. So while he's not that elite type of defender, he's someone that should make an impact here in a noticeable way.
That's Nique Clifford. That's Nique Clifford. His first lead since it was 4:42 left in the first half. Here comes Clifford. Rams looking for more off the transition, the lay-in from Porn. Averages the most points per game in the country, almost 70 points per game. Got about 68 in that first round matchup, and they turn it over on the first possession.
Nice job by Nique Clifford.
3-pointers in the first round.
Oh, good help there.
The right spot. You need a coach on the floor if you're going to play with bigger bodies. He is that.
The hands of Clifford dig it out. He sprays it to the wing. Transition.
Just got to yell out switch at that point and keep bodies on bodies. Don't give up layups.
First assist of the night. Bam is still contested.
Shot clock into single digits.
Took so high last game, but not get up and finish that one.
And Jackson.
Great slip from Jamin Blakefield.
And he's rejected by Clifford.
Things started in Seattle. Danger is a load in the post.
Russell, open look in the corner, and Clifford.
Nice to see you men halfway there. Rough into the rim, missed it, rebound.
Now, offensively, Nique grew into one of the most impressive players in the country, and I really can't say enough about how well-rounded he was. He played as more of a secondary creator with a ton more responsibility this year, and though I don't think he'll have that type of role in the league, his game is still pretty malleable. Now, shooting isn't a true strength of his, but he's improved to the point that you can have confidence he'll shoot it in the league, and this is what's opened up the rest of his game. He shot about 38% on 5 attempts per game, or 8 per 100 possessions, which was a jump from the year before, and he was at about 36% off the catch. A lot of those came off of traditional spot-ups, but he had a few feeling open spots on the perimeter and also enjoyed success off light movement on those Princeton and flex-like actions. And again, all of this gave way more confidence that he'll be able to space it in the league. He's also been very good around the bucket. He finished in the high 60s the last couple seasons, and he's done it in a number of ways. He's operated as a cutter and shown good feel and instincts there, and then his ability to punish closeouts and attack within flow has stood out in a real way. Sure, it's been against mostly mid-major competition, but he's a pretty good athlete who sort of knives his way to the bucket and uses his body well to find angles, and it's something that should carry over in some capacity.
Possession matters. Nique Clifford with 26. Got right down the lane. Nkrumah, forward court. Nkrumah.
then, they've gone 1 for 5. So they've cooled off just a little bit. Still lead by 1. Clifford with the jam.
His runner off the backboard. Colorado State 3-on-2 back the other way. Layup is up. Ryan Evans up.
Now, his expansion as a pull-up shooter has become somehow a little under-discussed. I get it because I'm also not sure it translates to the same way in the league, but he doubled his attempts and shot over 40% off the dribble, which is incredibly difficult to do in a year. He had better footwork, the confidence was at an all-time high, and whether it was getting to his spot in the mid-range or hopping into a 3, he did it efficiently, and he happened to be one of the most effective pick-and-roll ball handlers in the country where he applied all of these skills. He averaged basically 1.1 points per possession and showed good pace, a knowledge for where he could get his shot off, and he did all of this while frequently being blitzed and heavily game planned for. Now there's a chance that he's more equipped to have a bigger offensive role in the league than I've been giving him credit, but he at least has the pieces of a complimentary guy that should be a threat in more ways than one.
There, CSU basketball, Tennessee State back to man-to-man defense. Clifford, deep 3.
Clifford turns the corner. Oh!
Clifford off the bounce, the blow by and finish.
Jorgensen, the freshman, top of the key, hands off to Clifford. Big with the crossover, got right down the lane, scoops, and up and in.
Now, what's probably my favorite part of his game is what he can do as a passer and secondary playmaker. In taking on more responsibility, he also went from a solid assist percentage at around 19 to nearly 27, which is up there with guys like Jeremiah Fears and Kasper Ziakochonis. I was frequently impressed by his ability to read the floor quickly and deliver passes from there, often being under a lot of pressure. He plays well in the pick and roll and has a good command for what the help defense is doing. He'll read the low man and deliver an overhead skip to the opposite corner, or keep his drive alive to find a big or a cutter on the interior. My favorite specific play was these fake shots in the passes. When he saw 2 committed to the ball or in a miscommunication, he could just make that dump off instead of actually taking the shot, and they often showed he was a step ahead. He's also unselfish within offense and frequently delivers when he sees someone overhelping. He'll make extra passes quickly and the right play in transition, and we saw all of this throughout his Rams career. I think he's the caliber passer that it translates 100% of the time, even to a role, and speaks to his ability to process the game.
We've had 5 lead changes in the contest. All of them took place back in the first half. Clifford got it to Bemba.
Out of bounds area, and the Rams sneak another possession here.
Clifford down the lane. Great leave off to Jorgensen.
Nice pass. Yeah, Crocker Johnson left alone and drill.
Morton.
Make sure you're open. Make sure you can reverse that basketball.
Clifford jumps it off to Jorgensen, who gets.
Not a single Colorado State player has hit more than 1 3, so who do you target right now? Instead, they go for 2.
Comes in ready to execute. And you get 3, got this crowd going.
Yeah, you can hear the crowd loves him, man.
Well, you got to help out. Oh, right at the cup of
By Cardenas, but Lockett missed the 3. Jumper!
To Bemba. Bemba. Oh, caught.
Rams come up with another steal. Front court, Bourne, transition 3.
Nique has done a lot to become a viable shooter the last couple years, because though he shot threes at Colorado, he wasn't someone that teams were afraid of at all. But he's not the most fluid mechanically. There's a good amount of hard misses in there, and he was one of the streakier shooters I can remember watching in the last few years. In fact, there was actually a point in like January I remember thinking he took a step in the opposite direction, but he got hot down the stretch and recovered in a big way. Now, it's still probably my biggest hangup because it is pretty important to his projection, given he's not a truly elite defender, athlete, or playmaker. I do lean towards him being respectable, but the world where the adjustment to the NBA game makes him less reliable as an already older guy is one where he's probably just a back-end rotation player at best, whose energy has to carry the majority of his value. So this is still the spot that matters most for his general success. Now, as good as Nique was this year off the dribble, he's not the most adept ball handler or separator when creating shots, and that's where some of the skepticism comes in and how valuable that actually is at the next level. He's still relatively stiff with the ball, he doesn't have great burst, and he kind of defaults into these short range leaners and can turn it over when pressured. Now, he has enough to do it as a complementary piece for sure, but against NBA level length and athleticism, I think it'll be tougher, and that's part of the reason the shot being reliable starts to mean even more. Now, he's also an older player who will be 24 as a rookie and had almost all of his success after transferring down to the mid-major level, which is still worth thinking about. Now, we talked about this age question several times over the years. Last year, it was Dalton Connect, who was fairly similar in draft age, but no matter how interesting the player has been in college, if they're 23 and older as rookies, you can feel pretty good about not considering them heavily in the lottery historically. I still find philosophies or ideals like that to be somewhat reductive at times, especially because this is a people's game and there's a whole lot of factors that are worth considering. But as this specific type of sample grows, and it's not like we're reinventing the wheel here, drafting older players has always been less valuable, but it's at least got to be factored in here. Like we mentioned, the higher usage made him a bit less sharp as an overall defender, especially off the ball. So though I don't think this is going to persist in the same way, and I debated even talking about it in here, he can tighten some things up. His defense included some tired mistakes. He'd have a tendency to overhelp, leading to some better looks from three or moments that he'd have to completely sell out to get there at all. And then I'd be interested to see how well he matches up with certain wings in the league. He's been pretty physical, but he doesn't have elite length and movement ability, so I think asking him to be a true lockdown guy on stars could be tougher. He is competitive with enough good instincts to be fine, but it's something that I've at least thought about.
So far this afternoon, really locked into the scouting report, staying in. What a reverse layup.
Top of the key, Nique spins down the lane all the way inside, missed the shot.
Now, Nique is a pretty fun player in this class, and though I think it's hard for the older guys to really pop, I'd be somewhat surprised if he didn't contribute. Offensively, he should operate primarily off the ball, shooting, attacking closeouts, getting extra possessions, but I also think the passing and playmaking is good enough that he should do some of that within flow, and if he does show and prove that he's capable of more, then I think you're happily surprised by that. Defensively, I wish he was a little bit bigger, but he should defend a couple spots, and he's competitive and tough enough to switch. I don't think he's necessarily an elite guy on this end, but I do think we see him lean back into this like he has in the past. Now, to me, his biggest swing factor is still the shot. He could end up being one of those guys who is just streaky forever, but if he can continue to progress, he'll play 10 years in the league because of everything else he brings to the table. Now, rotation is most likely for him, but good starter would probably be the higher end hope. As for landing spots, I like Memphis, probably the most now at 16 after the Bane trade. You've also got teams like Utah, Atlanta, or even OKC that I throw in that mix too. And then if he were to fall or they traded up, Boston would make a lot of sense also. Comparison wise, he reminds me of a few players, but I like the Christian Brown one the most for sure. There's also some Aaron Wiggins there too for sure. And then I would say Josh Hart on the motor, on the glass, and the ability to make those necessary plays. If Nique can shoot it better than them, he might be a little different in the league, but somewhere in that realm would be the expectation.
That was a great giant killer finish in the paint by Payne, and now a steal. Here's Hart.
What happened? Hart, the alley-oop.
Nique Clifford has a game that's pretty easy to like as at least a rotation piece in the NBA. He plays hard, he defends, and he's rounded out his offensive game in a significant way. Now I wish he was a little bit better of a shooter or had slightly better tools. I think that'd make him nearly foolproof even as an older mid-major prospect, but he's someone that has a great chance to contribute, has attacked his weaknesses, and because of it, he's well in the top 20 conversation for me.